Have you ever wanted to play a game, but for some reason you either couldn't afford said game, it was on a really old game system that you couldn't get your hands on, or it was just on a completely different game system than the one you have, and you couldn't really justify buying a whole new game system to get the game? Well, I had that once, and even though I could technically I think get the game on Steam, I try to avoid games on my laptop because I don't want to kill it. And also storage reasons. But I'm pretty good with Unreal Engine. I'm not a master at it. But I know some things. And I thought, hey, it would be fun. I could just try to make the game because that'd be a good way to practice Unreal skills, learn new things, and just overall have fun. So that's what I started doing. I started trying to make the game. Luckily, a friend lent me the sequel of the game, so I had some actual game experience with it. And boy, that game was a hot mess, but it was fun. I was really bad at it. But it did help me in my progress to make the actual game. So if you can tell by my very bad drawing here what the game is, any guesses? Any guesses? Nope. How about this? So the game I wanted to make was Nights in the Dreams. And this is the sequel model I made, somewhat similar to it. I forgot the crystal, no. But yeah, so I wanted to make Nights in the Dreams. And I've been working on a model for cutscenes. I'm kind of making it as if there was a third game. A third game in the series. Because the series has been sad and abandoned. It's just no good. So I've been working on playing with it and making this cutscene model for a game. Got blinkies and all this fun stuff. Got all these fancy shaders. It's not the best model in the world, but it works. Oh, I have it set to local. I was like, why did I go there? You have this cool mouth, which was a pain. It's a Boolean mouth. And it just kind of cuts in. Ah, no. There. If I go to the mouth and change the shape of it. Object, mouth bowl. We got big. We got, ooh. We got closed. Combined with big. Is pretty funny. So this one's just for cutscenes though. How about the actual gameplay? Well, I'm not saying. Let's go to Unreal Engine. Boop-a-doo. So I've been working on this a while, and I've been switching back and forth between Unreal 5 and 4.26. So I really don't know what I have in this current file anymore because I can bring things to 5, but I can't bring it back to 4.26. And the fact that my file just randomly deleted itself at one point did not help me. But this is what I have so far, or currently. We have, as you do, you start off as the kid character. You go over to knights. You become knights. You sparkle. And you fly through the loops on the designated pathway. The loops and chips add to your score. You can spin boost. Spin boost eats your thing. I thought I fixed that glitch. Currently there is a bug where you just if you just keep pressing the space bar, you go forever. I thought I fixed that. I guess I fixed it on a different version. But yeah, you go back through, they add to your score. You want to get the highest score. You eventually run out of time. But what I have is some cool things. So if I go past the checkpoint again, I reset the loops. And these loops and chips are being procedurally spawned along this spline path. So each time you go through, they're not the same, which is different from the games. The games are the same. But placing things along the spline path is hard. So I just made it procedural. And this way you can have a little bit of fun. Nothing is repetitive. You just have to hope for the best with RNG. But there's always going to be something spawned along the points of the pathway. So let's look at that real quick. Here's my spline path. Here's like the thing. That's the tall thing. The tall thing is what you need to fly through. And I need to make it extend to the top, wherever I have the ceiling limit, if I have one. Trying to navigate. Okay. So I have these points. We have chip cluster, which just basically has a bunch of child chip actors. Here's the Orby. Basically, if the person that overlaps the Orby is knights, add to the score 1, spawn the particle system explosion, and destroy the chip. And here are the 4 chips. Knights. We have the same with loop. Basically, if add to your boost count. Chips don't add to your boost count, I guess. I forgot. Make sure you clamp your boost value because it doesn't want it to get past 10. Add 10 to the score and spawn the system of particles and then destroy. And we have 2 current loop things. We have loop rise, which is basically just a bunch of loops rising up. And we have loop tunnel, which is just a bunch of loops. The reason I have all these different things is because procedural generation. So if I go back to this, I can do functions. So basically, this is loop selector. I think, no, that's point deleted. Loop selector. So we have all these loops added to a array of all the points, things I can add to the points, and I store them in world data. This is like a game instance points. So the more, as I add more like loop types and chip cluster arrays, we add more to here. And then what this function does is it gets all of them, it finds how many there are in the thing, and it gets a random value in the array, and it returns it to root. This is the spline. I don't need this anymore. Goodbye. But at the beginning of the play, when the game starts, we generate a loop. We get the loop generation, and that's what this is. So count how many loops there are going to be along the spline and the distance along the spline. We reset these to 0. So at this point, we want 15, looks like 15 loops along the spline. So we call loop selector, and it spawns an actor at the current distance along the spline, as well as at a random height, changing the height, and as well as it matches the rotation along the spline, just so you can fly through it better. We add to the count, and we adjust the distance. And basically, it does that until we have the 15 loops. So if we count, we should have, I think, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, well, that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, 14. Because basically it's too many open. Basically it's like as soon as you get to 15 you have to stop. It has to be less than 15. So yeah, 14 points basically along the spine. And I would do this for every spline I would have. So in Knight's game there's usually only 3 laps per level. So I used to have 2. I guess in this version I only have one. It's okay. But we'd have like a loop and another loop. And basically it would generate the number of points along the spline. And probably for each one I'd have, instead of I could make this a shared function probably. That'd probably be a good thing to do. And then just have it so that each one has a different amount of loops. But let's go to point deleter. And what this does is it takes everything that is in the points loop, it gets it all, and then it deletes it all. And this is because it's going to refresh all the loops. So you see we have a lot of loops, not many chips. If I go through, it's going to delete all those loops and then add in new ones. Basically, it has to delete them so we don't have overlap if you miss some. That'd be a lot of chaos. Whee! We got the time. I think time should be kept, yeah, time is also kept in world data. Time blueprint basically this is timer countdown. Cast to world data, get the value, create the widget, update the widget, all this. And this is, originally I had this in, I think, nights, and then I moved it to the level blueprint. But that made it really hard if I had like, if I wanted to change it, like if I added enemies, I would have to do some weird call shenanigans because you can't really reference the level blueprint. So what I did was I made this world instance data, and then I just made this time blueprint and I threw it in. As you can see, it's in the level. Geometry. Close. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm speed running this, but I just wanted to do a quick brief overview of some cool things I was doing. But yeah, particles, materials, maps, geometry, blueprints. Okay, so let's go to play real quick and let's look at nights, because this was the pain. Nights is a pain. Everything's pain. Okay. So on possessed, we set the movement mode to flying. We get the route. We get one route. The route 1. We set it to the spline that we will be following, and we kind of snap our character's location to the nearest point on the spline. Over here, we have movement input. So we got move, move, and up, up, which basically is like which way, if you're moving left or right, or up or down. But what we're doing is we're comparing this with 0, and we're setting our rotator. Basically, what this is doing is telling you whether you are facing, if I go back to nights, blah, blah, am I going to the right? Am I going to the left? Am I going up? Am I going down? Basically, which way am I kind of facing on 360? And as you can see, I have this really smooth transition between it. This is exactly what all this data is for. It slowly rotates me to face the direction instead of just snapping to the cardinal directions of north, like south, east, west, up, right, down, left. So that's what that does. Yeah, as you see, it just kind of interprets to it using the world delta seconds. Just so it's not snappy, we got spin boost right here. Basically, it's increasing our speed by a lot. It doesn't feel like a lot, but it's a lot. Wait a minute. I made a derp here. That should be the same as over here, I think. Yep. That should be the same value. Okay. Save it. And then it just takes away from our boost. Plays the boosty montage. I think what I mentioned, I think a bug, unless that was a different recording. But what we need to do to fix that bug is to just reorder these. Order is pretty important in code. Sometimes it doesn't matter. A lot of the times it does. So you just want to make sure you have things in the right order. I think it's on complete. Or maybe it was, yeah, we could just do that. Watch me break it, and then I don't remember how I had it set up because I'm like that. Okay. Fixing a bug. Yeah, okay. The bug's fixed. Every time I hit, I can't infinite spin dash anymore. The game has been fixed. But I don't think I need on complete. Let me just check it real quick. That's one good thing about talking about code is that you can a lot of times when you're explaining it to someone, it can help you find the bugs, even if they're not big bugs. Is it cute? There's a way to line things up. Cute. Cute. I feel like Unreal Engine is like an OCD person's worst nightmare. Oh no! I accidentally opened Visual Studios. No. No. Be careful double clicking in your Unreal Engine file because you'll open Visual Studios and Visual Studios is not fun. I mean, it works. It's good for coding somewhat. But yeah, just be careful with your double clicking. OCD person's worst nightmare. Ever since I learned I can align these, I just have to like align them perfectly. It's just a mess. Just a mess. Okay. Okay. We have roller. And what this does is basically tells us which direction we're rotating. And that is because we need it to tell which way, we need to tell which way Knights needs to bend. So am I doing like a back flip? Or am I doing like a forward flip? Back flip, forward flip. And that's basically all that does. That was actually a real pain. I found that like snippet of code, I think on like a help thing. It is really, rotations are like the worst enemy of anyone. In 3D, coding, whatever, rotations are bad. They're useful, but they're hard. We have orientation. This is really important. So what this is doing is this is, if I go back to Knights, just do this every time. You'll notice how Knights kind of goes along the curve, faces the curve. That's what that function is doing. Basically, it is, it's like, hey, what's the rotation along this point of the curve? You need to rotate to match it. And this keeps Knights facing straight so they can go through all the loops. I don't know if you noticed, but the, as we mentioned earlier, all these loops are doing the same thing where they're aligning with the rotation of the spline. This is going backwards. You see, this is why I don't like splines. Splines are weird. Knights is flying backwards for no reason. Okay. And what that does, it also aligns the actor and the mesh. For some reason, the mesh doesn't really fall along with the actor. And the spring arm for the camera, I have it set a little bit, so it's a little bit behind Knights. And here's just the idle, is that whatever, if we're not moving, after a while, go back to your initial pose. So you see, initial pose, and I want you to kind of like slowly rotate. So if I'm like upside down, it's just kind of basically when you're not moving, go back, and then you also stop sparkling. Yep. I think that's it. Okay. That's most of they got the event ticks. So basically, you want to usually avoid a bunch on an event tick because that's calling like every frame. You want to avoid it. So I have it set basically it snaps the Knights every tick to the closest point on the spline with the exception of the Z location because we want free control of the Z location. So basically Knights can't fly off the spline and we call the which way you're rotating function orient along the spline and then idle rotation. Basically every second we do that. Which is normally you wouldn't want to do that, but for this game it calls for it. Let me look at Girly Girl real quick. It's Girly Girl. I think Girly Girl's just, yeah, when we switch to Knights Destroy, camera, just basic movement stuff. Nothing super fancy. Nothing super fancy. We get this old stuff. At one point I was having issues because I had used a side scroller template, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't letting me turn along the splines. And that was just because it was something to do with the side scroller template. So I technically have the old character files that I copied over to a new file that wasn't a side scroller template. So yeah, if something isn't working and you have absolutely zero clue why, I would just open a completely blank file, one with like nothing in it, and just start rebuilding, not like rebuilding from the ground up, but just bringing in your code from your other project bit by bit until you get to the part that doesn't work, and that should help you figure out what you need. We got the player UI, score, this changes to the text, time, boost. We got the event graph. We get the boost function. What's the number of boost we have? Get like the percentage of it to fill up the bar. Score, fill color and opacity. I don't know if you noticed, but as the boost counter went down, its color changed. Basically, I have it to when it's in certain ranges, it changes color. So yeah, it's like this color is like, hey, you're really running low. You're running low of boost. We got time from world data. And last but not least, we have maps. I'm just gonna open this. This is the level plan. This is my level blueprint for 2 levels. So if you played the Knights game, you should know that there's always 2 kids. We got the girl kid and the boy kid. So these were, as I'm kind of doing it as if there was a 3rd game, because I don't want to like copy the levels exactly. That's not as much fun. So I have these 2 kids with their levels. So we got the putt-putt level, which I thought would have some cool pipes and like flying through the things and the thingy things, and then like this foggy forest. So I pulled the level in, this level maps I have with the 3 laps. I try to have all the laps start in the same area, because I think in the original Knights game at least, you always had like a checkpoint at the center, or something like that. Oop, bloop, 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 wrong thing. And what I'm doing is for World 1, save everything. I just kind of put it on a texture, and I'm kind of building it. So I have yet to build any of the putt-putt assets. Any of the putt-putt assets. So yeah, we have, these are going to be, we'll see, we got some pipes that you can fly through. I'm not sure how most of this is going to work. I think these are vertical pipes. Try to have vertical stack flight pipes. Some cool fun things. Fly through, fly over. We got falling putt-putt balls. Looks like a meteor. Maybe putters. Putters go whack. We got the Nightopian thingies. That was like, that's the original design. That was me trying to add something to it because I didn't like their designs. They're like very similar to Chow's. We got No Touch Thorns. This is the Foggy Garden one. Breakable Wall. Rose Garden. And yeah, that's it. So this is what I've been working on. This is probably a really bad video. But I just wanted to show some peeps. Have this in case I don't have my files and I'm like, hey, you want to see what I'm working on? Watch this. Here's me rambling real fast about what I'm working on. And yeah. So if you want anything, if you want videos on how to do any of this nonsense, or just progress updates, maybe one day I'll be able to provide the game file. Probably not, because I don't own Knights. This is just for fun. If someone can tell me how to do the Paraloop, or someone who knows a lot more Knights lore, give me some pointers on what to do. Or if you would like rather, I forgot I closed that. If you'd like a video on how to do Knight's mouth, or just Knights. Knights is a pain to model, 100% pain, because you have to keep the head, hey, I thought I fixed that. You have to keep the head really, really round. Like perfectly round. So it's like there's no eye socket to help you with blinking or any of that nonsense. It's just a pain. I broke it. Everything's fine, everything's fine. But yeah, okay. Thank you for watching and have a good day.